Well, we've finished the foundations, the Old Testament. We've studied all the great history, and now we have come to the fullness of time when God decided to send his Son, Jesus Christ. The four Gospels. In studying the four Gospels, we have a much more detailed study of the four Gospels that is available, where we study the four Gospels under four geographic locations. Nazareth, from his birth until his rejection in the home temple. Capernaum, the great Galilee ministry, and the teachings on the Sermon on the Mount. We have the Judea Perea ministry, which is the 6-month journey to Jerusalem, and then finally the Jerusalem studies, which represent 35% of the Gospels from the triumphal entry through the cross. That study is available on another lesson, so we're going to focus today on how we are to love God and love our neighbor, which is the theme of this book. And so we will study more what Jesus taught about loving our God and loving our neighbor, and that will be the theme of this particular study of the four Gospels. We begin with the idea of joy, that we're to remember that joy comes in life through worshiping Jesus first, others second, and then yourself. So the whole idea that God wants us to learn to have joy in our life and to live a life filled with joy that is more a servant of others than serving ourselves is very important. The whole worship of God is very, very important. And we think about how we can worship God in communion and how we worship God in our communion taking bread and wine and remembering that Jesus Christ is the bread and the wine of our life. And so we worship God because Jesus told us that he came from God, and we want to worship God and the wonderful things that he has done in creation and the wonderful world that he has created and the balanced world that we have to be very careful ecologically to protect. And then we move to worshiping God's only Son, Jesus Christ, and how we want to sit at the feet of Jesus and learn to be his followers. And how important it is to remember that in John 10:10, he tells us that he has come that we might have life and have it more abundantly. And how as we can learn to live a more godlike life through following Jesus Christ, that we can really have a life filled with joy and filled with abundance. And how we can learn through difficult times to call upon the power of the Holy Spirit. God said, I leave you the power of the Holy Spirit to be your guide. And that was what Jesus said in the upper room in John 14, that he left to us a counselor, the Holy Spirit. So we must always begin all of our worship of God to remember we worship God, we worship Jesus Christ, and we have the power of the Holy Spirit to be with us. But then we have to branch out, and the next thing is to learn to love ourselves, because we are a creation of God. He created us with many, many talents and many gifts, and we have to really remember that we are here to serve God in his world. And so as we begin thinking about how to love God and then love our neighbor, we have to first learn to love ourselves and love the people that we are here to serve. Think about our talents. Think about how we are called to serve Jesus Christ and love ourselves. Then after we love ourselves, we want to learn to love our parents and to love our neighbors, our friends, and how it isn't so important in the fifth commandment that we are learned to love our family and to love our neighbors, and how important the family was to Jesus. We all remember that in John, he left the care of his mother to his great disciple John. And so Jesus was very concerned about family and love within a family, and how important it was that his brothers were one to Jesus Christ. And James and Jude would become great followers, and James would become the titular head of the early church. And so how important it is to have love within our family and love our brothers as Jesus loved his brother James and Jude, and they would be important followers of Christ after his death. And then the next important thing is to learn to love those around us. There are many needs in our nation. There are many people who have less resources and less talents than we do. And how important it is in our life to learn to love our neighbor and to learn to love the people around us and to those that have less resources than we do. It's always important to me to have a smile with people, whether I'm in the Safeway line or whether I'm on the expressway. And I get frustrated a lot on the expressway, but I learn to be quiet and not bring up my hate towards other people. And so all of us have to learn to serve, and how important it is that we have opportunities to serve other people and to encourage them. But then perhaps the most important and final issue that God brings before us is to learn to love our enemies. And this is not easy, because in the book of John, in the book of Matthew 7, on the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus reminds us that it is very important not to judge, that he alone is the judge, and we are to really not get involved in judging others, and we're learning to love our enemies. And this is very challenging today in our society, as we see such a divided society in our nation. And we see that there are many, many thoughts on one side and thoughts on the other side, and how we could bring better love into our nation to learn to love those who we may disagree with or to be considered our enemies. So there are many steps in the Gospels that help us to learn to love God, love the Holy Spirit, love ourselves, love our family, and even learn to love those who we are not liking and those who may not be our people that we like. So this is a very important period in our life to learn to apply the Gospels and learn to apply in daily living the love of Jesus Christ, the agape love. How great thou art. Amen.